Hello YouTubers, hope you're all doing well. Got a bit of a different one for you today. I'm going to show you my 3 favourite days that I've had since I've been out here on the rivers and canals. Starting off, in no particular order, with a day that I spent on 2 rivers, the River Lee and the River Stort. So sit back and I hope you enjoy. We're at Stansted Abbots, Essex, on the River Lee. And it's one of them days that don't come along too often, when the sun's out and there's not a breath of wind and the river's like a mill pond. And all the scenery is reflecting on the river, so you're getting twice the beauty. Not a lot of people show this area on their videos, and I think it's so underrated. Just look at that for a bit of scenery. We've got Fields Weir right in front of us, and then the river splits. To the right is the River Lee going down to London, and to the left, where we're going, is the River Stort. I put the camera in the bows for this trip. Not the bows, that would be too uncomfortable. In the bow for this trip. Because I've got Mum on the back with me, and all you'd hear is us parroting. You wouldn't want to hear that. Straight away you can see a difference in the River Stort. It's not as wide, still as beautiful, if not more. And more twists and turns. Every time we went round a bend in the river, we was confronted with another scene of beauty. Obviously not all days are like this, but it's days like this that made me fall in love with narrowboating. There's no other boats moving, and it's just so peaceful. I think cruising like this, on days like this, is one of the best ways to get rid of all the stresses and strains of everyday life. It all just seems to melt away. I'm only showing you a few snippets of the day's cruise, but I'll leave a link to the videos in the description and you can watch the full cruises. Just look at that with all the reflections of the trees. I'm so lucky. The only downside that I found on the River Stolt was the mooring. Nearly every mooring that you come up against, you had to get the plank out because you couldn't get close to the edges. But I didn't mind that. I think we'll end the first of me showing you my favourite days about here. The next favourite day is when me and my daughter Claire done a marathon 14-hour trip through London, which was a real eye-opener. This favourite day was in June, when the days are at the longest, because I knew that there's going to be nowhere to moor as I'm going through London, and it's going to be a long day. We're coming up to the locks at Tottenham Hale, and after dropping Claire off at the lock, when I've come off the lock landing, Aitch has gone out of control. There's like undercurrents pulling Aitch round and stopping me from turning. And I'm just going sideways down the River Lee, which was a bit of a worry at the time. But as soon as I got under the bridge, Aitch started to turn, as if there was like different river gods either side of the bridge. But when you look back on it, stuff like that is what the adventure's all about. We've worked our way down to Hackney now, in East London. Still looks nice. It's different. The first video that I showed you was more about the beauty and all the scenery, but today is going to be more about the hustle and bustle and the sights. We're in Stratford now, and to the left is the Olympic Stadium, but we're turning right up the Hartford Union Canal, which was the first time that I ever went on a canal. Up until then, I'd spent all my time on the River Lee and the River Stolt, so it's all going to be new. I don't know if you've noticed, but everywhere where you can moor a narrowboat is double moored, except for like a wide beam, of course, there. We've managed to get to Islington and we're still going strong. Just on the left there, as you come out the lock, there's some people that took the opportunity to have their lunch in a lovely little area. There's a tunnel just past this bridge, and between the bridge and the tunnel there's some houses, which one of them is supposed to be Boris Johnson's, the Prime Minister's. Obviously it's not 10 Downing Street, but it's before he went to 10 Downing Street. This was a first for me. Up until then I'd never gone through a tunnel. It wasn't the longest of tunnels, but it was still long enough to give me an idea of what it's all about. We had a bit of a mishap in this tunnel, which I've cut out of this video. So what I'll do, I'll leave a link to the London videos in the description so you can watch them completely. As it might not seem like it, but I'm only showing you a few snippets of the journey, as the two videos that I made of the journey through London were about an hour long. The amazing thing to me about this journey is that at 14 hours is we only saw 3 other boats moving, and 2 of them I nearly crashed into. This is one of them. I managed to stop Aitch, but I think the other boater's mind must have gone into panic and he's just carried on and crashed straight into the bank. We've managed to reach Camden, which is one of the places that I was looking forward to seeing from the canals. This bit here, Claire's walking in the same footsteps as this hard-working young lady pulling a fully laden barge on her own back in the day. We're sort of coming into the west end of London now, and this is round the back of Regents Park, Regents Canal. I can still remember this part when I was a kid visiting London Zoo, watching the boats go by. I never thought one day that I would be one of them boats. A lot of other boaters told me, oh, you won't like London, but so far the way I'm doing it in one day, because obviously there's nowhere to moor up, it's been wonderful. Me and Claire felt very privileged to get this unique view of London that not a lot of people see. I quite enjoyed going through these tunnels. Don't think they'd be very nice if you was claustrophobic though. It was nice to see some people enjoying this lovely weather, having a drink and something to eat out on the streets up here in Maida Vale. Most people associate London with all the traffic and the hustle and bustle, but it's a different world down here. This little Venice was beautiful. At this point in the day, we'd been going for about 10 or 11 hours in 85-degree sun, so it was getting a bit tiring and we had to cover up a bit. But there was just so much to see and discover that we didn't really worry about that. Just as you come out from under the bridge, that building on the left there is the local CRT offices. If you want to buy an house around this area, I think you've got to be a millionaire. And this bit here that we're going along, on the right is probably all the millionaires, and on the left is all the scavengers like me. I wonder how they get on. Because it must be so expensive to have a private mooring on the right over there, like this massive boat. Whereas on the left, if there's a space, you can just rock up there for 2 weeks. We were so lucky with the weather, because I can imagine if it was pouring with rain for 14 hours, it would have been a miserable old journey. It wouldn't have looked nothing like this. I hope that gives you a bit of an idea of what it was like on my second day of my favourite days. Last but not least was a day when I was new to narrowboating. I think that was why I enjoyed it so much as well. And that's up the top of the River Lee, where to Hartford. At this stage in my narrowboating journey, I didn't have a clue what I was doing or a clue of what to expect. I had a little look around where, but it was raining and all the people had disappeared. But on the weekends, if the weather was nice, you could imagine that you was abroad somewhere with the amount of people outdoor eating and enjoying themselves. Had a really nice feel about it. And it was also an old stage town, like where stagecoaches used to pull in. You can see like the entrances for the stables. Where we had just come out of the first lockdown, I never had a chance to get any tuition on how to handle a narrowboat, so I had to find out about it all myself. So I wasn't very confident in what I was doing, and to make it a little bit more difficult, I was trying to film what I was doing and what I was seeing. I was fascinated with this area coming up. It's got the gazebos that are older than the USA. Obviously they've got like a preservation order on them, and they're not like the gazebos what we get today. Some of them are beautiful like this. where I'd been working so hard to get this lifestyle, it was actually hard to believe that I was actually doing it. I've probably had better cruises since then, but because it was the first time that I done a proper cruise and it was so exciting for me, it had to go down in my 3 best days. Putting up onto lock landings was like my nemesis when I first started. I can remember the first time I tried, I didn't have the camera going, so I didn't film it, but I overshot the lock landing and made a right pig's ear of it in front of people. So things like this, what I'm doing now, would worry me a little bit at that time. Aitch's paintwork was looking well in them days. That was before 2 winters got hold of it. There was some nice looking countryside up here in Hertfordshire. And going on one of these trip boats is a nice way to experience it all. Just sit back and let someone else drive. And I can remember worrying why these canoeists weren't getting out of my way. And I didn't see the left turn until the last minute. All these little things that I used to worry about have all disappeared now that I've got a bit more experience at what I'm doing. We're getting into Hartford now, and things seem to be getting a bit tighter. The river seems to be getting more narrow. I can remember that I was trying to get moored up in Hartford, but there wasn't a space anywhere, so I had to turn round and go all the way back to Ware. I hope you enjoyed me showing you my 3 favourite days of narrowboating. That's so far, and touch wood, I hope to have many more in the future. This is the end of the lee navigation, and I just about squeezed under the bridge so that I could turn around. I'd like to take this chance to thank the people that showed their appreciation for my efforts and bought me a coffee. Them people were Claire, Chris and Alfie, Andy Bisson and Roger W. Thank you ever so much. Like I always say, if you're new to the channel and you're thinking about subscribing, don't do it just yet. Watch a few of the other videos to make sure you like it, and if you do, please subscribe. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on the cut.